Welcome, everybody, to the Kearsarge Food Hub's annual meeting. Tonight is a little bit special. It's our first time doing this in person, and I am just so delighted to be doing this here in the Bradford Town Hall that has been recently renovated. Isn't it just beautiful in here, you guys? Woo! Other than recently voting a couple of times, the last time I was here was about 20 years ago, if you can believe it, for some middle school dances. So this is a little bit of a different vibe. Thank you so much to those of you who are here in person. Thank you so much to those of you who are tuning in from home. Thanks, YCN, for making this available far and wide. My name is France Hahn. I'm a co-founder and I'm the Director of Development, and I'm one of your hosts for this evening. First things first, I want to go over our schedule for the evening. It's really quite straightforward, but I want everyone to know what to expect. Rob and I will share first on some of the strategic transitions and actions that took place last year, followed by an organization-wide overview of our finances. Then we'll hear from some of our program leaders, those who are overseeing the aggregation and distribution of local food, our education and food security programs, and our community organizing work. This will be followed by questions and discussions. And we'll shoot to wrap this all up by 7. There's some wiggle room. We can be live until 7:30, but we won't go that long, I promise. The live broadcast will then end at that time, and then those of us who remain will be treated to dessert. So, as always, we like to ground ourselves in the here and now with a land acknowledgement. We are on the unceded land of Indakina, which has long served as home and a site of meeting for Abenaki people for thousands of years. Kearsarge Food Hub honors, recognizes, and respects these Abenaki as the traditional stewards of the lands and waters on which we live and work. We commit to respecting and helping protect the lands within our use and share the bounty with our Abenaki partners today. Up until recently, I was KFH's executive director. I've now moved into a new role, and it is my absolute delight to introduce you all to my co-host and the new guy, our executive director, Rob McGregor.
Thank you. I'm going to try to sit down. I'm not very good at sitting down. I want to move around, but I'll try to do this sitting. Anyway, during my brief time here, I'm very humbled by this organization and by what's gone on, and there's really 4 words that have stood out to me: gratitude, appreciation, awe, and humility. So I want to spend just a few moments going over those words, and I'm going to start with gratitude. And that runs much deeper than a simple thank you. And it's really the recognition that we're all together and we're all doing something that's more powerful than what any of us can do by ourselves. But it does come with a thanks. So I have a little bag of tricks. I think this was, we'll see how this goes. I'm going to let France pull out a name.
I don't know anything about this.
Of course she doesn't. If she did it, we wouldn't be doing it.
Heidi.
Is Heidi here, Toma? Oh, come on.
Wow.
Next one. You snooze, you lose.
Harry Wright.
Harry Wright?
He's here.
Where's Harry? Okay. So what I have for Harry is a very nice T-shirt that if it doesn't fit, you can come down to Sweet Beat and grab another one. There you go. It's a small way to express our gratitude, but we all have a lot to be grateful for, and I think that's just a small piece of it, and Harry's just the beneficiary, so thank you. The next word is appreciation, and that goes further still. The gift that each of you bring is not simply financial or confidential or filled with patience. It's so much more. Each of you are bringing something to the table that has made the Food Hub what it is today. And we could not do it without you. Your willingness to believe in something that continues to grow is heartfelt. Now, bear with me on this one. I got something else. I think I might have to stand on this one. Okay, so it's okay. Janet Byfield, are you here, Janet? Okay, this is a good one. This is my favorite. I'll bring it down. I got to unwrap it. Now, there's a story to asparagus. In the springtime, you go out to your garden, and what do you see? You see a bunch of dirt. And you go, I'm ready to go do some planting. But then the next day, you're out on the garden, and you see maybe something about that tall. Then the next day, maybe it's that tall. And then the next day, it's maybe this tall. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go do something about it. And you just break it off and eat it right there in the garden. And there is nothing better than eating an asparagus right out of the garden. With all the black flies. But so tonight, in terms of what we're doing, it's important to know that we have to have an appreciation, we have to have gratitude, we have to have all these things. And looking at Mother Earth shows us and allows us to see that we have a lot to be appreciative of. And it's because of that we're able to be the Food Hub and be able to enjoy the sustenance each and every day. So Janet, this is for you. Now I got 2 more words for you guys here, so.
That's why we're going to 7 here.
The next word is awe. When I look at what Kearsarge Food Hub has become, the farmers it supports, the families it feeds, the community it is quietly knitting together, I'm filled with awe. A genuine sense of wonder of what people working together towards something good are capable of.
Here I go.
We got to pick a name.
I gotta pick a name. She's not here. Oh, not here. Really, people are
Missing out.
yes.
Deb Johnson. Working together for something good. What better reflects that than a bunch of bees, huh? Working together for something good. And Randy and this is Randy's honey. So we're very grateful and very appreciative. And so not only do we have people, local people, making this honey for us, but we have all these bees who are not only helping make the honey, but they're help pollinating all the food that we need to eat. So when we think of working together, and not just this room, we think of so many elements of what this means. And so Deb, you can be the beneficiary of working together through the honey that we are so grateful to have. Thank you, Randy. And last, but not least, as I'm getting a glare from these guys. Okay. And that brings me to humility. We are all stewards of something larger than ourselves, shaped by your generosity by farmers who show up before dawn, and by the remarkable corner of New Hampshire that reminds us every day why this matters. And I think this symbolizes that. And this is a loaf of sourdough bread, because someone has to wake up at 4 in the morning to make this bread. And then they drive it to the Sweet Beet on Wednesdays and Fridays so that we can have it. So that when you walk in the door at Sweet Beet and you just open the door and look immediately to the right, you have this sourdough bread. So talking about humility or being humble, we have to realize, wow, people are waking up at 4 a.m. to provide food for us right down the street. And that's just a gift that we sometimes take for granted. So it's with that, and who's the winner? Lou Lapin? Okay, not here. Eileen Kelly. So Eileen, as you have a chance to eat this bread, I hope you eat it with a sense of humility, because all of us are jealous. But that humility is important for all of us, and it's important to realize that there are so many people who are here preparing our meals, and I think that's just something that we have a lot of gratitude for. So thank you for being the protector of that. In conclusion, at the heart of all of this, and at the heart of all of our lives, is food sovereignty. Some of us may have heard this word, it may go over some of our heads, but food sovereignty is the right of this community to define its own food system, know its farmers, and never depend on distant supply chains that have no stake in our well-being. When you invest in the Kearsarge Food Hub, you are not simply shopping at the market or investing in a program. You are affirming that this community has the right and the power to feed itself on its own terms for generations to come. And that's what happened when 5 young adults decided to say, hey, we're going to make a difference, and now look at what it's become today. So hats off to all of them.
Thanks, Rob. That was all a surprise for me as well. So, the Kearsarge Food Hub. Who are we anyways? We are the Kearsarge Food Hub. We're a nonprofit organization. We are serving the Kearsarge Lake Sunapee region. We were founded in 2015, and we envision a resilient and connected community where everyone is empowered to access healthy local food, where farmers are supported and the land is nourished, and all people share a common sense of place. 2025 was a big year for the Food Hub. We celebrated 10 years of this organization, of this community service work, and that meant for us, 10 years meant taking a look at where we started, where we are today, celebrating all of it, the growth, the challenges, the people, the impacts, and it also meant taking a look at where we wanted to go and what we needed to do to get there. So through these reflections, we realized that we needed to do a few things. We wanted to increase our capacity, streamline our programs, and gain clear strategic direction. And so we did a few things. We brought in fresh perspective and a ton of experience by hiring Rob as a new ED. And as a co-founder and someone who has led this organization for a long time, I can tell you it was a scary decision. And I'm very happy to stand or sit before you today and really with no doubt say that this was the right decision and that Rob is the right person for the job. He has jumped in fully with head and heart, and I am truly, really so excited to see where we go with your leadership. We also made another significant decision to leave the West Road location of Sweet Beet Farm. Co-founder Pierre has now begun operating Sound Roots Farm independently. You can find all of those beautiful veggies that we've all come to rely on. I'm personally addicted to the arugula that Pierre grows, but you can find that at Sweet Beet Markets, Local Harvest CSA, and many other places in the community. And while this decision was not an easy one, it has provided us with a lot of space and energy to invest in strategic thinking, and so we started a strategic planning process, the first. For us. And so the first step of that is revisiting and reviewing your vision, your mission, making sure that that all still feels good, and your values. And for a million reasons and none at all, we had never formalized our values. And so we took the time to do that. And we arrived at these that you can see here. And these have truly guided our work since day one. Values are much more than words on a page. They are foundational to who we are. Now, we don't have time tonight to dive in to the depth. We have beautiful definitions for all of these. So I do encourage you all to view the short film that we made, you can find it on our website. There's a QR code that you can access it on our newly released annual report. And that short film really brings depth to the words that we chose and what we mean by them. Once these values were completed, we launched into the meat of strategic planning, and that means looking at where we want to be in 3 years and setting those goals. And so we're going to be wrapping that up in the next couple of months. The next month or so, we're going to have the higher level goals, and then we'll be spending the following couple of months looking at what a 3-year operational plan is. And you know us, we will share it with you, we will be loud, we will let you know when that is done and complete. And I'm very grateful to Rob, who has jumped into that part of the process and has been an excellent guide for us and where we want to go. And now I'm going to pass it on to Rob to talk about finances.
Thank you. That may be hard to read, and that's not the intent, but all the information about our financials, because it's very important that there's a level of transparency about who we are and where we are, is in our annual report that most of you have gotten, and certainly is at the door. And anybody watching online, you can get it on our website. I think what's important, I just want to only really bring up a couple points. You can see the revenue, you can see the expense, and you can see the net income. So there's a net positive to our organization, which is great. And I think that those are all important elements of who we are and why we are vibrant in this community. But I really want to talk about what our organization is and how our organization is different than many other nonprofits. And Kearsarge Food Hub is, as you can see, a nonprofit social enterprise. It generates revenue through the marketing cafe and reinvests every dollar back into food security, education, and community connections across the Kearsarge area. So that basically means that every transaction at the counter is a community investment. So when you're buying that honey, not only are you paying for that honey, but you're also, the money that you spend goes back to the community. It doesn't go into an investor, it doesn't go back to a stockholder, it doesn't go back to even a business owner, which is still wonderful. It goes back directly to the community to do all these wonderful things, and we're going to be sharing about that, and these folks over here are really going to be clarifying what the heck we do as an organization. But it's really this aspect of who we are that I think differentiates us from many organizations. And so while we can share numbers, and I could spend all day going and breaking that down, the important piece is that every dollar invested, whether it's a financial commitment or going to the store, is helping our community and is helping in all these many and bountiful ways. So I'm happy to take any questions after this is over, any day, any time of the week, to really deep dive, because I want people to feel that it's not our organization, these people here, but it's our organization, everyone in this room. So I don't want to dwell on the finances any more than I need to, but I'm going to pass the ball back, or should I go right to introducing? Okay, so we're fortunate tonight to have some very gifted speakers to join us. And our organization has a lot of pillars, and it can get kind of confusing, but I think what we're going to have today is some folks who are going to really clarify who we are and what we do. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first speaker, who is not here. I feel so bad. Lauren, and before we go any further, I want to give a shout out to the people who prepared the food tonight. And so to Sage and to Garrett and to Carolyn, and unfortunately Lauren, who's not here, and Alex, who helped out, and Johanna, who helped out. All of you prepared this beautiful dish and this beautiful food. And Lauren, who would be reaping the benefits from it, is unfortunately not well. So we have someone who's going to fill in for Lauren. But if Lauren was here, we would be able to say, first, we have Lauren, the Director of Operations. She oversees the market, the cafe, and food security programs, and is a co-founder and has worn many hats during her 10 years here. And she's done it all from mastering how to prune our tomatoes to building out our bookkeeping and certainly directing our operations and all that we're doing within the market and cafe. And so I wish she was here, and she wishes she was here, but ably filling in and aptly filling in is going to be none other than Hannah. So Hannah Flanders,
Yeah.
you can wear your new...
Actually. All right. There we go. We get mistaken as twins all the time, so I hope I'm pulling this off. Okay, I'm going to talk about our food aggregation and distribution pillar. As a food hub, of course, one of our core functions is to aggregate or collect and then distribute local foods. Sweet Beet Market and Cafe are programs of KFH, as you know, that serve this function by providing year-round access to local seasonal products from local and regional food and beverage vendors, including meals that we make in our own kitchen. Our aggregation and distribution efforts are integral to food security because we all got to eat. No, we all got to eat shirts on the stage tonight. That is shocking. Now Harry has a shirt. That's great. So it's super important to note that we use the same ordering and storage systems that we use to stock the market and cafe, also for our food donations and food security work, which Cassie is going to talk more about in a little bit. But it's really all about connecting local farmers to more customers and investing in the infrastructure we need to effectively move food in our community. So why is this work important? Well, low profit margins, high capital investments, and market consolidation threaten farm viability and drive many small local farms out of business. Right now, we've lost approximately 80% of our farmland here in New Hampshire over the past 60 years, and small family-run operations, which make up about 83% of all farms, are facing severe financial pressure. 90%, more than 90% of those farms operate at a loss. New Hampshire produces only 3% of the food that we consume here in our borders, while the average distance our food travels is about 1,500 miles. And climate change, of course, is a major threat to all of our food security. And so this is why fostering food sovereignty and ecosystem health and farmer resilience truly is more important than ever for all of us. Here's a little recap of how we've grown over the past 10 years. It's been pretty remarkable. As many of you know, we started as a little farm stand in 2015 down the road, Sweet Beet Farm Stand, where we were just learning how to grow our own veggies and sourcing from 30 producers within a 30-mile radius. Then in 2017, we launched the Bradford Innovation Project, and so we moved over across town and opened Sweet Beet Market as a year-round indoor market in the old Bradford Inn. And then in 2021, we opened Sweet Beet Cafe. So you can see in the graph here, the market income over time, this is just since 2021, has been increasing. This doesn't even show the dramatic increase that happened from 2015 when we started to about 2020, 2021 when we developed more robust reporting and tracking practices. But what it really shows is dollars back into the pockets of our local farmers. It shows an investment in sustainable farming practices, and it shows money staying right here in our local economy, as well as more food getting onto more plates here in our local community that simply did not exist before Sweet Beet came to town. And looking at 2025 specifically, Rob had mentioned the market and cafe are important revenue generators. In fact, 31% of the Food Hub's budget came from the market and cafe in 2025. So they are essential for building food access and supporting farmers, and as Rob said, furthering the entire mission of the organization. So last year, together, we sent $512,000 worth of food back into the pockets of 255 food and beverage vendors. Remember, that is for market purchasing, cafe purchasing, and food donations purchasing. And importantly, 84 of those are hyperlocal vendors, so within a 30 to 50-mile radius. So that is compared to when we started, 30 producers within a 30-mile radius to 84 hyperlocal producers and 255 vendors total. These efforts last year served 4,330 customers, and that's a big deal to have year-round food access like that. We all know, all of us in this room love local food. Farmers markets, CSAs are fantastic and important, but this convenient year-round model really is pretty revolutionary for our neck of the woods. And these numbers translate to real impact for people here in our local community. And so farmers, for instance, are core stakeholders that we seek to serve. And so I'd like to share some of their thoughts in their own words. Sarah Hansen, many of us know from Kearsarge Gore Farm and Local Harvest CSA, says this about our efforts. Working with KFH and Sweet Beet is directly in line with Kearsarge Gore Farm's goal of selling our farm products as close to home as possible. Our vegetables and maple syrup are available to a much wider base of eaters than we could reach just as a single farm, all while staying within our local region. KFH has taken on the important task of educating people and increasing access to not only recognizable vegetables, but also more unconventional vegetables, which makes adding new varieties to our crop rotation a much easier proposition. Bridging the gap between farmers and eaters is a critical piece of our food system, and we're thankful to KFH for using their capacity to meet this need, which is a huge impact that everybody in this room is making possible on an ongoing basis. So, current priorities and next steps for the Marketing Cafe and food aggregation and distribution more broadly. We are going to assess our product offerings and improve our selection based on your feedback and wants and needs as customers. We are currently formalizing a vendor onboarding process and reflecting on our sourcing code. We're working on expanding our on-site storage so we can hold and move more food. That's super important. And we are going to be increasing our net margin over time so that our revenue can support more KFH activities. And as always, this is super, super important. We're investing in our team and developing more recruitment strategies. So as you can imagine, the Marketing Cafe and food aggregation is a very labor-intensive process, and we are going to need people to grow and continue these services. We are celebrating new leadership in the market. Carolyn's over there as a co-manager. Tara is tuning in from home. Sorry, it's still going. And they are now co-managing the market. We're super happy to have them. We are looking for leadership in our kitchen. We really need more hands to help make more food. So please help spread the word that we're looking for folks to come work in our kitchen. And we are going to have more exciting developments from our strategic plan. So you just stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Next, we'll hear from our education manager, Shoshi Salazar. Shoshi started with us about a year ago and has integrated into the team really beautifully and seamlessly. Shoshi has an incredible background that makes her particularly well suited to this position. She's a certified permaculture designer, a food systems specialist, and she has vast experience in education. Shoshi is one of those rare people that has both a tremendous amount of soft and hard skills, and we are very lucky to have her. Take it away, Shoshi.
Mom. Thank you so much for that very sweet introduction. I feel really lucky to be here and to be welcomed into this community of people, both that I work with and all of you. It feels really right and special to be here, so thank you for having me. Kearsarge Food Hub's education programs inspire all ages to connect with food while cultivating the next generation of mindful eaters, farmers, and land stewards. Curriculum-based programs explore farm and forest ecosystems, career readiness training helps grow new farms, and stewarding a community of learners gives everyone a chance to learn where their food comes from and empowers them with the knowledge of how to grow it at home. So why do our farm and food education programs matter? The average age of farmers in New Hampshire is 59 years old, and conventional farms rely on unsustainable practices. We've lost 50% of the Earth's topsoil in the last 150 years. Meanwhile, our kids face a mental health crisis in an increasingly digital world. That's the scary stuff. So how do we work to combat these incredibly challenging realities? My permaculture training tells me that small and slow solutions are the answer. So we're working to grow farmers, to address the aging farmer crisis we face by inspiring and training the next generation of growers, raise a healthy next generation by supporting mental, emotional, and physical health for our youth through outdoor hands-on learning, and restore skills, we're reclaiming lost community level sufficiency by offering teachings on how to grow, cook, and share food. These efforts have grown and evolved significantly over the past 10 years. Here is a recap of some major milestones. In 2015, we started working with Kearsarge Elementary School at Bradford with the first graders, a program that continues to this day and is continuously growing and expanding. I will be planting lettuce seeds, lettuce starts that they seeded a couple of weeks ago with them in their classroom next week. And they planted peas and radishes that we'll be thinning. And really sweet, the idea is that at the end of the year, they'll harvest that food and share it both with the students in their school and elders in their community. In 2021, the farmer apprenticeship was launched, giving new farmers a paid, immersive experience in farming, including access to land, equipment, mentorship, and markets. In 2023, Farm and Forest Club was launched, addressing a need for more outdoor education experiences for local kids as a weekly drop-off program, offering hands-on learning and fun on the farm and surrounding ecosystem. That's what I was doing today. I have the really special and lucky job that I get to hang out with kids outside and provide opportunities for them to connect with nature and themselves, and so that's what I did all day. And today there are 4 new organic farms in the region as a result of our community-supported farm and food education. While Sweet Beet Farm has been the host of our apprentices and also many interns, it also participated in the Northeast Organic Farming Association of New Hampshire's Transition to Organic Partnership Program, also known as TOP, and mentored 2 new farms in our region, Alprilla Farm and Wild Hollow Farm, supporting their transition to become certified organic. Additionally, co-founder Pierre has started his own independent operation, as Franz mentioned, Sound Roots Farm. And of course, Cassie and Jake, who is in the audience, are rocking it at Blaisdell Hill Farm. You can find their products at Sweet Beet Market and also sign up for a CSA share through our friends at Local Harvest CSA. I think it's important to mention that our efforts to help grow farmers and new organic farms is not an isolated effort. We're surrounded by so many others who are working to invest in organic farming and support new and beginning farmers. I think that it feels really powerful to be engaged in this work with our community, co-creating the future that we need. As we heard from Franz in the introduction in 2025, we made the decision to shift away from the big production farm at West Road in order to more deeply invest in education. Even during this time of transition, our education programs remained really strong. Last year, our education programs helped hundreds of kids get into the gardens for dynamic experiential learning. Meanwhile, a 5-year-long farmer apprenticeship had a strong end, sending new farmers out into the community to start their own farm. That's Cassie and Jake McCormick-Lashire, who now run Blaisdell Hill Farm, which is, how far is it from here?
About 6 minutes, maybe?
6 minutes from here. We hosted 200 learners in the gardens through 21 unique educational programs, offering hands-on educational experiences for all ages. Last year, the host site for our education was in the raised beds at Baby Beet Farm at the Sweet Beet Farm stand location, and we sent out 30 educational gardening newsletters to 1,200 subscribers with helpful information to grow food at home. We have a growing body of how-to videos, gardening guides, and other tools that we share freely with the community. These numbers translate to real change for people in our community at a time when it's really needed. And I think what's so powerful about this work is that we know that we're not going to turn every child or adult that we work with into farmers. Though there's a lot to be said about rebuilding an agrarian society, and if you've never heard Richard Heidenberg's speech about 50 million farmers, I highly recommend it. But I do think that we have the ability and the opportunity to open minds and hearts and create a culture of care about the planet, about where our food comes from, about how we treat each other and interact with the world around us. It's truly a gift to be engaged in the work of providing people in our community, both big and small, meaningful opportunities to connect with their food, nature, and thus themselves, because after all, we are a part of nature, not apart from it. For children to get these opportunities to see themselves in me and our team, and see career paths that involve working with the land as viable and fruitful choices is so vital to our future, and something that I wish I really had growing up. And we've heard really positive feedback from our educational partners that work with us about the programming that we're doing right now, that this is the most organized and prepared nature-based programming they've ever seen, that we're encompassing all types of learning styles, visual, tactile, musical, auditory, and that these are really the most meaningful lessons that they've been a part of. So what are the next steps for us as far as education goes? We're currently in the midst of developing new programs at several sites in the community, and that's really exciting. We're collaborating with local partners, Sunset Hill Educational Institute and Kearsarge Community Common, as new locations for farm education programs alongside mission-aligned organizations. We're bringing back Farm and Forest Club. I told you all that's what I was doing this morning. Summer and fall sessions are coming up. This was just the start of our spring session, and we had a really lovely day. We were planting onions and kale and Swiss chard and lettuce and spinach, and we were looking in vernal pools, and we found egg sacs and tadpoles and doing all sorts of really sweet, fun stuff. And we're establishing new relationships at Kearsarge Elementary School and strengthening existing ones to build and care for on-site garden beds and host curriculum-based learning with the eventual goal to bring meaningful garden, nature, and food-based education to all elementary schools in our region. And finally, we're strategizing the next step for Sweet Beet Farm's location. We're in this unique moment in time right now where we get to envision what the next iteration of Sweet Beet Farm could look like, and we're excited to co-create what's next with all of you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Shoshi, for that. Yeah, if you're ever feeling down or in a bad mood, just go hang out with Shoshi and the kids, and your spirits will be lifted for the rest of the day and the rest of the week. Next up, we have Cassie McCormick-Lashire. And she was, as you heard, she did some apprenticing with us. She's, for 5 years, has been with this organization. She's been overseeing the marketing cafe and food security. She stepped back from that recently to just do the food security because she's bored and has nothing else to do in her life other than, I don't know, maybe a farm. And so she is now running her farm and helping us out with food security. And so that's obviously an important element of who we are as an organization. And so I pass the baton over to you to share with us what that looks like.
Hi, everyone. So, like Rob said, I oversee our food security program, and I think it's a really beautiful mix of both immediate hunger relief and working on long-term strategic plans to really find solutions for food insecurity in the area. And tangibly for us, what that looks like is we run a food donation program. We send local produce from local farmers to our local food pantries. We also operate a community fridge, which is a free fridge. It's open 24/7, no questions asked. I'll dive into that a little bit later. And we also run an ongoing discount program at both Sweet Beet Market and Cafe. And what that allows us to do is to lower the barriers to accessing food. And we do that for at-risk populations. So we have senior, military, and farmer discounts. And when asked the question, why does all of this matter? 1 in 9 people in New Hampshire are food insecure. And specifically here in the Kearsarge region, between 10 and 12% of our community members are food insecure. And when we look at kids specifically, kids in our Kearsarge school district, 1 in 8 qualify for free or reduced lunch. And if we step back a little bit further, we see that food assistance programs are being dramatically cut in the state, in the country. And so I think it really shows us that this work is super important now and will probably continue to be very important as we go into the future. And so what our program does, that's where we come in, we create dignified food access. And so one of the biggest barriers for folks accessing food programs is the stigma that's attached to it. And we aim to create systems that are dignified. We have the fridge, which is anonymous, and we try and be as welcoming as possible for folks who are in need, because you never know when it could be you. And another thing we do is support nutrition security. So we use the term food security a lot, but something that's really important as well is specifically nutrition security. So making sure that we're getting healthy, nutritious foods to folks who need it is really a missing piece, and I think in a lot of programs, and it's something that we really aim to work towards. And so food security has been at the heart of what our co-founders have been doing for the last 10 years. And you can see on the graph, we've really doubled down in the last 5 years, and we've increased our donations quite a lot. And that is in direct response to an increased need in our community. To dive into 2025 a little bit more, I'll throw some numbers at you. Last year, we did $140,000 worth of donated food, which is a huge number. And 83% of that was fresh, local produce. These donations supported over 7,000 of our neighbors, and we did that in partnership with our local food pantries. And numbers are great. I think numbers tell a really important story, and as Rob said, it holds us accountable, it lets you know what we're doing, and we can be transparent. But I also want to dive a bit into the felt experience of what these numbers actually mean for us. So I'll talk a bit more about our fridge. Like I said, our fridge is our free fridge. It's open 24/7, no questions asked. Anyone can use it at any time for any reason that they see fit. And physically what this looks like for us, it's just a small little shed. It's got a fridge inside of it, it's got shelves, and we stock it between 4 to 5 times a week with, like I said, local produce is really our biggest thing. But we also stock it with eggs, dairy products, grocery items. We try and make sure when somebody goes there, they can make a meal with what's in there. And recently we've been asking the question more and more of who's using our fridge, why are they using it? We want to make sure that we're able to respond to the needs of the users, and sometimes that's kind of hard when you, by design, have an anonymous system. So we worked with the Center for Advancing Rural Health Equity to conduct an anonymous survey. And we got some really, really helpful and powerful results from that. And I just want to quickly say a few quotes that we got when we asked the question, what brings you here to the fridge? Why are you using the fridge? So somebody said, "There's always something in the fridge that helps me stretch my already thin budget. I'm 70 years old and on a small pension in Social Security." Another said, "My husband is going through chemo for stage 4 cancer." And another said, "I'm disabled and homeless." Those always get me a little bit. But I think it's really, really important that we ask those questions. What are people facing, and why are they needing these resources? And I think it's always so interesting to see that it's not one size fits all for why people are using these programs. Some people are using them for long-term support. Some people are using them for short-term support for recent life event. And I think having the fridge is such a beautiful model because it decreases those barriers quite low to what people can, or so that people can access it. And I think something we definitely learned in this survey is that it's working, and that it's a really needed resource, and that also we need a heck of a lot more of them around. And so what we did last year was we created a community fridge manual, and essentially this compiles everything that we've learned in the last couple of years between building the fridge, building the shed, and what it looks like to operate it. And so this is on our website. Go check it out, and please feel free to share it widely because we need to have a lot more of these things out there. And so lastly, I just want to dive into what our next steps look like. 2025 was a great year, and I'm really, really looking forward to, in my new role, having a bit more time and space to look into what we can take for next steps. And so I'm really happy to report we will be responding to community need, and we'll be growing our food security services thoughtfully. We'll be using data from our food security report, from the community fridge survey that I just mentioned, and really leaning on stakeholder engagement and our strategic planning that you folks mentioned before. And, taking a deep dive into, does it look like diving into gleaning or into community fridge expansion or working on infrastructure like storage so we can increase our donations. So really thoughtfully thinking through what our next steps are. And we'll also be engaging in a public education campaign to help increase awareness of food security in the region and really working to reduce that stigma around needing help and asking for help. So yeah, that's a quick little overview of our food security program. I'm really happy to talk about any of it more in depth if you'd like.
Thank you, Cassie. I do have some news. We will not be ending at 7, so we're going to keep going a little bit longer. Thanks, everyone. Just wanted to put that out there now.
I'll be quick.
Hannah's going to talk at the speed of light, not too fast. But really quickly, because you haven't heard from this person before, even though she does usually do all of the talking, Hannah Flanders. Hannah is a co-founder. She's our director of community engagement. She's worn many hats at KFH, but from the very beginning, she has taken on the task of communicating the story, the work, and the impact of KFH and building a shared sense of purpose throughout this community around the mission of KFH. This is no small task. And she's also she's spearheading all of our community organizing work, which has been growing quite substantially. Take it away, Hannah.
Oh yeah, so much growth. Thank you, Franz. So community building is our fourth and final pillar that we're going to discuss today, and we have really learned since day one that this is the heart of the work that we do here at KFH. It's about bringing people together like we're doing tonight. It's about bridging divides and nurturing connections through the regenerative and equitable food system that we are building together. So we do this through shared projects and initiatives and creating spaces where neighbors can connect and collaborate and celebrate local food. And here's why this matters. Food access resources and services in rural communities like our Kearsarge area are often siloed and uncoordinated. We all know that social isolation is one of the biggest challenges facing certainly communities everywhere, and definitely here in the Kearsarge community. It has surfaced as one of the major needs in local needs assessments of the past several years. And opportunities for meaningful connection are limited, where you can go online and find all sorts of connection. Where's the meaningful connection for us to gather in person? So that's why we spend so much time and effort investing in our community here at KFH. We're working to combat this loneliness epidemic by building relationships and restoring human connection around food and nature, just like Shoshi was talking about. We are spearheading coordinated action and trying to bring cohesion to fragmented efforts. And we're generating public awareness to communicate and share an understanding of the negative impacts of the conventional food system and the value of local food and ways that we can all take action together. So just like all of the other programs that we've heard about tonight, community building has grown over the past 10 years. Just a few highlights on that growth. In 2019, we gave a TEDx talk, not so ironically, called Becoming Ourselves, How to Grow Community. And it really was just the tale of starting off, the first 5 years. And of course, we have all these logistics and systems and moving food in the community. But really what we found is we are also growing community for ourselves and together with all of you in the process. The QR code for that, I believe, is in the annual report. In 2020, we established the Feed Kearsarge Coalition, and I'm going to dig into that in just a minute. And in 2021, we launched our first annual community fair, which is a tradition that is still going strong to this day. Looking at the numbers in 2025, last year, collectively, we distributed 9,370 free seedlings to 360 home and community garden sites through shared initiatives like the Abenaki Seeds Project and Tray It Forward. And of course, that is accompanied by gardening education from our Farm and Education program. And we hosted over 1,000 attendees to our free events like the community fair and our Love Local event and educational events in the community room at Sweet Beat. And we are so, so grateful to have had at least 40 volunteers, many of whom are in this room tonight, lend a hand in all sorts of aspects of KFH operations, from the farm to our events to the kitchen. And so what I really want to focus on as the main focal point of community building today is Feed Kearsarge. It's a food access coalition that we are grateful to co-lead alongside the Kearsarge neighborhood partners. FEED stands for Food Expansion, Education, and Distribution. And as I mentioned, it was founded really in the spring of 2020 in response to the COVID pandemic. And though the pandemic has eased, many of the challenges that were exposed have only grown. So one of our successful projects as a coalition is the Tray It Forward project. It's in its 7th year, currently registering people to get free seedlings. We have 400 seedling trays ready to go out to people who self-identify as having financial burdens to starting a garden at home. And this past fall, in 2025, Feed Kearsarge was re-energized by the sudden threats to SNAP and the big cuts that are currently underway and still very much happening in federal food assistance programs. So we stepped into a more formal leadership role to really move this coalition forward. The definition of a coalition, this I think speaks volumes, is a group of community stakeholders from an array of backgrounds and organizations who come together to improve local food systems and address issues of hunger. We can't do this alone, and we can't do this in silos. So by coordinating our farmers and our food pantries and churches and advocates and nonprofits and citizens, everybody in this room, we do have the power to pool our resources and mobilize the community in key areas that address the very specific needs of our Kearsarge area community. And just last month, we hosted the inaugural Food Security Summit, where over 100 attendees came from 40 organizations to find collaborative solutions at the intersection of hunger relief and food and nutrition security and building resilient food systems. It's very important that we look at all 3 areas when we're looking at food security for our region. And overwhelmingly, folks felt it was a very helpful event for making connections and learning more about food insecurity in the region. One attendee said that the folks at the summit might be mostly from the choir, but this is perhaps the first chance that they've had to sing together. And so that's a beautiful quote. We certainly have a lot of work to do reaching new people with our message and getting everybody to understand what we're all working on, but also having the chance to sing as a choir is incredibly helpful and in fact imperative to achieve our shared goals. And we're just seeing more and more how the coalition really is an embodiment of resilience through relationships. And so next steps for community building include formalizing this Feed Kearsarge coalition with clear structure and membership and shared goals, and developing more working groups like the Tray It Forward project that's working so well to figure out which other areas we can really improve in the Kearsarge area. We're responding to the feedback from the summit. There's so much good feedback coming from that day, and we have our first official coalition meeting coming up on May 21st. You can email me at Hannah, H-A-N-N-A, at kearsargefoodhub.org if you want to become part of the Feed Kearsarge Coalition. We would love to have you. Everybody's welcome. And we are going to continue hosting events and doing cool things at Sweet Beet. One term that we just love is third space. So the community room at Sweet Beet really is a third space. It's not work. It's not your house. It's a third space where we can come together and just bump into each other and have some good food, have some conversation, have connection. So we have a lot of cool things coming up. You can check out our events at our website, kearsargefoodhub.org. Thank you so much.
All right, we threw some information at you. Take a moment, digest. Do we have any questions? And maybe I'll come down. Is anybody going to be brave? Oh, no,
You're not allowed to ask a question. Just kidding.
Here I come. I'm going to do it. I feel nimble.
Thank you, Franz. So maybe this is a strategic question. I was here 10 years ago when the Food Hub started aggregating from farms. And the point that Rob made, I think, is so valuable to remember, is every dollar we spend goes to the farmers, right? So, but here's my question is, at the same time, the Food Hub has been really successful in growing farmers And associate indicated also growing a pipeline of people who want to become farmers so that they can step into the shoes of those 59-year-olds that eventually have to leave their farms. So we are hoping and we are seeing farmers grow in our region, certainly in the hyper region. There's strong evidence of that, and the Food Hub has done that. My question is this: can you grow the distribution side at the same rate? In other words, 3 years from now, will you sell double the amount of food in the market?
I think I want to say something first. Well, I think it's a really great question. We have been talking about it. I guess I'll do this. We have been talking about it, and I think there's a lot for us to consider and think about. And I do want to say one of the things that I believe strongly in is that we can't be and do everything. We do have other local food hubs. For example, Food Connects, who is one organization that literally does this, that works with hospitals and schools to increase the distribution of local food. So I think as we move forward, one of the things we need to do is figure out what we should do and who we should partner with. And so I'll let Rob share his, if you'd like to.
Thanks, Leon, for that comment. I think that's so critical, because if you are growing farmers, you need to be able to make sure that the farmers have a path to be able to distribute the goods that they're growing and do it in a way that's least bumpy in terms of what they're doing. Because if they're spending half their time trying to distribute food, whether it's at a food hub or whether it's at a market or a cafe or at a farm stand, then the ability for a farmer to want to stay within that business becomes more and more complicated and frustrating. And so, yes, I think one of the big steps for us is that we need to really spend some time and energy sitting down with each of the farmers in our community. Because if we don't sit down with our farmers and we want to get it through a third party or what we think is right, then I think we're taking a step sideways instead of the direction we need to go. And so within our strategic framework, a big part of our conversation is going to be directly one-on-one with farmer, not just a one-off conversation. Franz and I were talking about this today, that having a farmer advocacy and spending time with a farmer doesn't mean that they're going to come into our space once and we're going to check the boxes and get the answers. It means that we're going to be rolling up our sleeves, we're going to be out with them at the farm, we're going to be sitting with them at the farmer's market, we're going to be really figuring out what it is and how it is we're going to get from point A to point B. But core to all of that is going to be, how does a farmer distribute the food that they're growing so that we can be doing not only what we are at Sweet Beet, but we're doing what we can to make sure that the farmers' needs are met. And whether that's through our market and cafe or through a whole bunch of other sources, that's critical.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah.
I also just want to note that many of the farmers we work with currently at Sweet Beet Market and Cafe find a ton of value in that market outlet. And so if we can grow our food donations and if we grow our market cafe footprint and the way we're able to engage customers and increase the customer interest in local foods, we are also serving that. So there are many ways to serve market access for farmers. And it's just also, as Rob was saying, about what the farmer's goals are, because you need to have a certain scale, you need to have certain certifications, you need to have a certain model to sell wholesale. And a lot of our little guys here in our region really favor the direct-to-consumer model, or where they can go meet their customers directly and have a scale that might not be at the level of the bigger distribution. And it might be a goal for farmers coming up, but that's all where the feedback from the farmers will be essential and honing in on that.
Sorry, everybody's talking about this, but I appreciated Hannah bringing in the concept of the farmers who we already work with right now. I was literally in the greenhouse yesterday with Sophie from Alprilla Farm. We were seeding lemon balm and transplanting some ground cherries and stuff that we're going to be planting with the kids, and they've been so helpful in that process while we don't have our own greenhouse. But she was talking to me about how, and for those of you who don't know, Alprilla Farm used to operate out of Essex, Mass, and they still sell a lot of wholesale food to Essex, Mass, like have really big wholesale clients that they work with. But even with those huge clients, Sweet Beet was their largest client. And I think that that just speaks volumes about what we are doing right here, right now for the farmers in our community.
That's a fun fact. Thanks.
Super fun fact.
Any other brave souls who have a question? Oh, Steve Allenby.
We need music in here. It's, oh.
Yeah, music. You need music. I guess this is, when you talk about making a market, as Leon was for the farmers in the area, that might not be the same as addressing food security. And I think you kind of just got to that a little bit, Hannah. But the farmers and organic and all of that sort of thing, you know, it's expensive. And you could create a market for those folks that wealthier people could pay for. But how do we, because I know you kind of have a dual goal here, how do you reconcile, how do you bring that other goal into it, the food security? I understand the free and the donations is a piece of it, but are there other thoughts on that?
You're looking at Rob, but are you going to go?
Well, I have a couple of thoughts. I think it's a great question. I think it is. I think there's one, you can make the case it's better to go to a big national distributor and get the cheapest food you can. And in terms of calories, you're going to get more calories to more people. And I do think that that's valuable, and there are organizations, the New Hampshire Food Bank, that does that. So we're presenting this nutrition security, and I do think that that is an incredibly important piece. I also think that for the viability of our local food system, of our farmers, it can't just be for some. That doesn't make it resilient. That doesn't create the sense of belonging and the sense of community. We have to open pathways to make sure that everyone in our community is welcomed and that it's not just for the elites. And so I do think for us, there's a mission piece to it. Now, I do think that there are some clever ways that we can make sure that we're not spending too much money for this. And it's not on that same slide. The food security one.
Right.
You can see the bottom line is how much money we spent. The top line is how much food we donated. And so we realized in 2020, when we decided to really commit to food security and not just donate what was left over, because we donate to order, we said, okay, this is a ballooning budget line item. What are we going to do about it? And so we've entered into partnerships, and we're going to continue exploring, and Rob is a big advocate for this, but gleaning is an incredible opportunity. Shout out to Andy Jeffrey that has been talking about this for years. Farms often do, for any number of reasons, have food that's left over or that's extra in the field, and we can come in and take that and send it through. We can also start talking about food recovery. There are all sorts of farm stands or little markets that we can redirect the food. So I think it's not a one-size-fits-all. I think we need to have a multifaceted approach, and I do think it's a good point. But I do want to make sure that we continue to include those who cannot afford the price into the system. Otherwise, I really don't believe that it's going to make sense in the long run. Anybody want to add to it?
Steve, thanks for that comment. And I think one of the important things is to be creative with our farmers. And how do we come up with a mechanism to be able to allow our farmers to be successful, but do it at a rate that, or do it in a manner that allows for it to be food to be affordable. And that's the balance. And how do we do that? And I think that only really comes through authentic dialogue. And I think we really need to dig deep with our farmers and be able to say, how is it that we all can have our needs met, whether it's those who are struggling with food security or whether it's a farmer who's trying to grow the food for us, or whether it's the person who's growing making the sourdough bread. There's a lot of layers to that, and it's not a simple layer, but it's one that we need to have real good, honest dialogue about.
Questions? Leon Milan.
I don't have a question. I just want to make a comment to that point. To that point, Steve, is that to me, that is the beauty of the Food Hub and the fact that they're a non-profit. So when I make a donation and I know my donation is going to food security, I know that the people on the receiving end of that donation are getting real food. They are not getting leftover food. They're not getting food that's spoiled. They're getting real food. At the same time, my dollar goes to a farmer because our food security program buys food from farmers. So what I love about the way Kearsarge Food Hub deals with food security is my money goes two ways. It gets to the community in two different ways. And people get really good food, and farmers have financial sustainability.
I'm wondering why I'm sitting here thinking, well, what about the Uglies program? Like maybe you have a section of less than perfect produce that is reduced and can be purchased and still help the farmers and the people that are on incomes that can't afford.
That's an amazing point, absolutely. And we've had an ugly bin at Sweet Beet, but I think that that is something that we can look more into, for sure.
We'll use the mic. That's also the function of the kitchen. Alprilla Farm grows mostly root veggies, and they'll send us a bunch of the not so great looking veggies that we can process into meals. And so that's a really great use of that kind of produce. And the meals go to the community fridge. The meals obviously also go to Sweet Beet Market. And we just started this really cool new program where the meals we make at Sweet Beet Cafe are going to the Dartmouth Health Food is Medicine program and the perinatal population specifically. So new families, new mothers have several clinics that they go to for healthcare services, and then they pick up some of our Sweet Beet Cafe meals. And there's a lot of room to grow those kinds of efforts as well. Money's not the only barrier to eating these products. The time and the preparation and know-how. We want to do more cooking, education and all of that, but time is still a huge barrier for people using fresh produce. So making them into meals is a big part of what we do.
And that's just an amazing, nutrition security, as we can all imagine. Pregnancy and immediately postpartum, the type of food you eat is critical to the long-term health of that little baby.
I'll put my market hat back on. So yeah, that's a really, really important question, and we do our best in the market. Anything that is maybe a little squishy or maybe a little ugly, or greens that were harvested a week ago, which is funny to say because most of the greens that we get in the supermarket are usually several weeks old. But we try and have everything in there be as high quality as possible. But there are veggies that are a little squiggly, or things that aren't as aesthetic and that kind of thing. So we do our best in the market to have some things that are discounted. And, we talk about it all the time, and we kind of call it the donut hole. So how do we reach the folks that, kind of fall in the middle? So folks who, aren't, wealthy enough to buy all this produce, but maybe don't fall into a space where they feel like they need to rely on a food assistance program like SNAP or use the fridge or a pantry. And that's the donut hole. And I think the donut hole is often kind of forgotten and looked over. And I think it's really, really important that we do our best as, not only a business, quote unquote, in the market, but also as a nonprofit to make sure that we're serving everybody, because that's why we're here. And so I think it's really important that we continue to do that. So yes, there are things like that in the market. And I do just want to plug again our discount days. So Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays, we have our discount days. So we have a day for seniors. We have a day for military, so it can be active or veteran. And we also have a day for farmers. So we do our best to meet the needs of everybody. We can't be perfect at it, and we're still really trying to get to a point where we're serving as many people as possible, but we're definitely making strides, which I think is important.
Just a few more minutes. Look at us. We're really not that far behind. What can you do right now to help? There are 5 things. 1, we are a donor-supported organization. We'll be launching our Grow With Us monthly giving campaign on Monday. If you are not already a monthly donor, please consider joining. Predictable, recurring income is incredible for a nonprofit organization. It allows us to grow our programs. It allows us to be flexible and meet the needs in real time of our community. Of course, if you give $50 a month or more, you will be given this amazing mug. So, something to consider. Of course, shop at Sweet Bee. That's number 2. Shop at Sweet Bee on May 23rd. We will have our garden party plant sale extravaganza. Say that 3 times fast. There will be organic plant starts, some vendors, tastings, and music. It's going to be a good time. Number 3, we are hosting our 2nd annual benefit gala on July 23rd at Sunapee Hollow Farm. It's a blueberry farm. It's going to be peak blueberry season. It's going to be an incredible, unique experience. Tickets are going on sale this week. They will be limited. They will run out, so get yours early. We will be raising $50,000. Number 4, as always, to learn more and stay up to date with everything KFH, please subscribe to our newsletter. You can do so by going to our website, www.kearsargefoodhub.org. And number 5, I know you are all so engaged. You're here. Please keep doing what you're doing. Stay engaged. Be an advocate. Spread the word. So many of you are volunteers or shoppers or donors. Keep doing what you're doing, because the only way this all moves forward is if we work together. One last thing before we go have dessert. Thank you. First and foremost, thank you so much to our team at the Kearsarge Food Hub, every single one of you, some of which are here. Bradford, I know you're in the crowd. You guys show up every single day and you bring everything to life. Ethan, who's new on the team, so happy to have you here. Carolyn, well, she already got a shout out. Sarah. Oh, Sarah. Thank you guys, really, truly. Thank you so much to our board members for your guidance, your diligence, and thank you to our volunteers who show up when it matters. A huge thank you to those of you who infuse financial resources into this organization, whether you're shopping, whether you're a donor, whether you're a sponsor. We could not do it without you. Thank you, YCN, for airing and recording this, and thank you to the Bradford Town Hall for hosting us in this beautiful space. And lastly, thank you all for being here tonight, whether you're here in person or tuning in online. We are so, so grateful to be doing this with all of you. Thank you, and good night.